One. Welcome, Debo Ray, to our call here today. I'm really excited to have you. And we're going to talk about some of the progress that we've had over the last many months that we've known each other and been working together. You are a superstar to me. You're a Grammy-nominated singer. She owns her own business, doing performance coaching for musicians and artists that are looking to expand performance coaching and finding better ways to employ themselves. She travels all over the world. She has a wonderful husband that's a super supporter, Jerry. I've actually got to meet with him too. And so we're going to talk about where Debo was, where she's been, and what our future plans are to keep her moving forward. So Debo, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Well, hi, Brian. I'm super happy to get into things and talk about my progress because there's been a lot of progress.
Yes. Well, tell everyone
So,
who you are and what you do.
sure, my name is Debo Ray. I am a full-time musician and a vocal professor at Berklee College of Music. I'm Grammy nominated and have been performing for over 15 years now. I travel all over the world, usually performing with various musical groups. And when I'm homebound, I have my own teaching studio where I cultivate a lot of young people's art and craft, as well as getting young professionals to get from just doing music as a hobby to doing music as a career option. So when I'm not doing any of my music, I'm also trying to get my body right, and get into a mindfulness of where my body needs to be.
Excellent. And so initially, where were you at and what were some of the goals that you had? And then we'll talk about the results moving from that.
Right. Where I was at a very difficult place in my life where my career was taking off and I was traveling a lot. I had a lot of prospects and just no set schedule because of that. And I didn't really know how to eat properly. So there was this specific goal that I had in mind. I had an amateur bodybuilding competition that I figured this would be a great avenue for me
Right.
to really explore, like, okay, how to eat and how to be fit.
Right.
And I got really down on myself because I didn't know what I was doing. So I found Brian, and got a lot of education on how to not
Thank
only
you.
eat correctly, of course, how to eat correctly, as well as how to make it fit into my very kind of flexible lifestyle.
Right. At one point, I remember going into that was your initial goal to just get in
Yeah.
great shape. And then we've transitioned into finding that work-life balance with you. But there was a time where we were a couple weeks before you were going to be actually doing the show, and then you had San Francisco, and then you were going home for a day or two, then going to Texas, and then all this was within a week or so of,
Yeah.
and you had very little control over your planning or the food itself, and so it was pretty wild.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. And, it's, I have the benefit of having food prepared for me on some of these events, but they might not know what I actually need.
Right.
So, it was a real wake up call. I'm like, I have to at least understand what to do in this
Right.
environment. Yeah.
Excellent. And so what were some of the things that you had tried before that felt not as sustainable or manageable in the crazy busy life that you have?
Mm. Main thing, especially because I was in that more bodybuilding mindset, was measuring out pre-packaged meals that had no flavor. And usually it'd be very hard to travel with. I've had this like huge tub that I'd always travel with.
Taking all your food with you
Take
and
it
stuff.
exactly, and then I wouldn't be able to socialize, which was really big
Right.
for me. Um, or unfortunately, if I got really down on that, I just didn't want to eat that way, then I would just not eat.
Not, yeah,
And
right.
that didn't work either. I was very low
No.
energy.
With the
Yeah.
type of performances you put on and the shows you like to show up and do for
Yeah.
your fans, you need energy. We'll talk
Yeah.
about the Tina Turner
Oh,
number that you
yeah.
did in a little
Yeah.
bit. So
Yeah.
there was a bit more rigidity, more
Yes.
strict, more say 1980s meal plan type.
Yeah.
Some of the, I remember the working out was very regimented and you had to be in the gym for hours a week, and that was challenging in itself. So what were some of the things that we did that kind of stepped away from that and created a bit more, to say, lifestyle design to manage all the moving pieces that you have?
Mm. Well, there was one really huge, like, milestone lesson that I got from you at the very beginning about being flexible about what types of foods I was eating. So it was no longer just this rigid, like, just have this type of like chicken with brown rice and asparagus or green beans. It was
Right.
like there are these specific food groups. You need a little bit of each food group, dependent on what my goal was. And I got the ability to then say, like, oh, this is this version of this meal and this is another version of this
Right.
meal that are both calorically, they make sense.
Right.
So it gave me a lot more flexibility and also joy in my eating. I could look forward to eating rather than just
Right.
be like, oh my God, again chicken
Like
and
same
white rice.
meal again. Right?
Again,
I joke,
again.
but I always tell people, if you don't like the food you're eating, I'm going to ask you why. If it
Yeah,
doesn't taste good, why?
I am
What's
eating it.
going on? And certainly the travel, the airports, the long layovers, the in and out places, you'd go in, hit it, quit it, and go back home. And that was a whirlwind. So we had to set up a lot of structure, some good boundaries that were really manageable for you, that you
Yes.
were excited about actually doing, and not taking a 3 days worth of food with you in a container and trying to figure that out too. So you could be social because everyone else is going to eat wherever they're at. How do we
Yeah.
create an approach that allows you to still perform high, still aim toward the goals that you have for yourself, and move from there? So let's talk about what were some of the results that we were able to attain from where we started to where you're at the, say, the show, and then we'll talk about some of the progress that we've been making coming out of that into the normal
Yeah.
everyday life.
Well, may I give some numbers? Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I started working with you about 12 weeks before the show. I was at around 168 pounds,
Right.
and I got down to my show weight 12 weeks later of 139 pounds. And the thing is, I like,
That's
first off,
30
that's like,
pounds.
what? 30 pounds? It's insane. But it
Insane.
also, even more than just the scale weight, I felt really good.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
especially when you get closer and closer to a bodybuilding show, things just get really tiresome.
Right.
And like, I was like, oh, do I have to cut calories? Do I have to run more? Do I have to do more cardio?
Right.
It didn't feel like that. It felt like I was really adjusted in my body. And that
Right.
was a feeling I was not expecting.
Right. I
So it was
remember also going through that. As a business owner, you experience stress, right? Any, entrepreneur, business owner. I've been doing this for on my own since 2010. So that's 14 years of just being solo. And there's always going to be some level of stress. So you had travel, we had your actual business, we had Berklee that you are managing. They kept seemingly putting more on you as well, like, hey, can you do more, and can you do this, and you can do that? So we're juggling all these things. Plus, how many times did you travel in that 12-week time? You were gone at least, say, half of the weeks that you had time that you had to leave and go perform at a high level, and then come back because you're still growing your musical profession. So that is tremendous to be able to drop that. And we didn't, in comparison, I remember someone was telling you that you had to do triple cardio and you had to, like, be at the gym at 5 a.m. or something.
yeah,
And that just
yeah.
wasn't what we did, was it?
It wasn't. I was actually being told I had to go to the gym 2 times a day, wake up at 5 a.m., go and do an hour of cardio, and then go after my work day was over because they thought I had conventional work hours for some reason.
Right, right,
And
right.
I'd have to go in and do an hour of lifting at the end of the day. And that I had to eat in a certain way. I had to time everything. I had to make sure that if someone was in my like, excuse me, I need to do this. I need to
Right.
eat this random bite of
Yes.
whatever. It just felt so rigid, and
Hmm.
I just once again I don't have a conventional flex like a
Right,
schedule.
right,
So doing that, I knew that I couldn't sustain it. It was
right.
just not for me.
Right. Yeah, everyone I work with, they're managing high workloads. They're usually the visionary and doing a lot of other stuff as well, or delegating a lot, and their plates are very full. The
Yeah,
job for me is to come in here and understand their situation, look at what their movement looks like, fitness or cardio, or whatever you want to call it, or exercise. Or we're going to look at the movement piece. We're going to look at nutrition to make sure that you are optimally fueling your body and giving yourself the energy to keep up with the task. When we look at time management, we had to talk a lot about that, or how do you squeeze everything in, and to the point of Debo, you have to eat regardless of how much Berklee wants you to put on. We have to have something that's easy, accessible at this time, or you're going to go 8 hours or something without food
yeah,
and wonder why you're a little hangry
easily.
at night. So stress management, there's and then balancing family life so you can spend time with Jerry and all these,
Yes.
or your friends, your social circle. Again, as being a business owner, the social end usually ends up being minimized because you're working and doing all the things to build. But also you had a lot of social time when you were around your friends and your coworkers in terms of your performances and such. So your bandmates and whatnot. And that in and of itself is could be challenging too, is going into
Yeah,
these situations, having these goals in mind and trying to blend what your prerogatives and importance are amongst the many other people. Yeah, a lot of people
that's
that
so true.
might be watching this would maybe have be in an office setting or something. There's always food coming in or work client meetings, or they travel a lot too, and they have maybe peer pressure around what they're supposed to eat at
Yes.
these events and such. So, and without having some frameworks, then all of this stuff ends up being pretty big challenge, right?
Yeah,
So we had
exactly.
we'd broken some of the conventional wisdom of what you're supposed to do to lose weight. You walk, you basically walked. I kept telling you, Debo, you're managing a couple of things. Why do we need to go spend an hour on the treadmill? But everything's working, and that's the thing, is we created a formula that made sense. A certain amount of movement, a certain amount of a focus on the food and how you're eating, and then that created the results.
Yeah,
And so we
yeah,
we broke that. So you moved less, a lot
yeah,
less
I
than everyone.
did.
You ate more than everyone, and you ended up with what was your finish at that
Uh,
show?
yeah, I ended up placing third in that
Yeah,
competition
which is
with
tremendous. And that was your
over,
second
yes, it's
time.
amazing. Yeah, and that was my first time in that category. Like I had
Right,
never done that amount of muscularity. So it ended up being like, oh, this is an even better fit for me. And I didn't have to work nearly as like
right,
dauntingly hard
right.
at it.
Every-
That was another thing that you actually helped me out with was to understand how high my activity level was just apart from
right,
fitness. I
right,
was always walking around. I was always going to meetings.
right.
I was always traveling.
You're
So the
bopping
whole,
around singing.
yeah, I dance in my performances as well. So
Right,
like considering all of those factors and not beating myself up because I can't do an hour on the
right. You
treadmill,
can't be in the
finding,
gym on
right?
cardio, right?
Like
Uh-huh.
of course I want to lift, but there was also that psychology of coming into either the gym or going into eating in a certain way that was not stress related. It's
Right,
not, ugh, I have to eat or ugh, I have to work out. It's
right,
this feels really good. This
right,
this plugs in for me. So
right.
it ends up feeling a lot easier.
Yes, as simple as easy, easy gets done. Everyone already has a very busy full plate. My job is to come in and simplify to the best of my ability. So
You
I think
did.
we've done a great job. Now, so
Yes.
we've transitioned from peak performance and it's the same thing. So like you are like a high performing athlete. You did this competition, you have a certain persona of who you are and present yourself to your fans, and in your music, your singing is undeniably amazing. You should win all the Grammy awards. I'd give them all to
Thank
you.
you. Thank
And so there's this energy that you have to have there. And now we're working on finding that balance of like, okay,
you.
what
Yes.
is me maximize showing up for myself as the best that I can in my performance and music, coaching my people, and
Mhm.
then hanging out with Jerry and just being Deborah when you're at home and just taking a nice relaxing hour to sit down and read a book and have
Yeah.
a cup of coffee with your beautifully designed meal that you shared with me a number of times for breakfast. So how
Oh
do
my
we find
gosh.
that work life balance of performance but also uh, just this is how
Mhm.
I live.
Well, I mean, I really appreciated working with you through both of those things because I honestly did not know how I was going to get into a more maintenance, I guess, driven lifestyle of eating, of going to the gym. And in talking to you, I found that there were certain things that I just already liked about what I was doing that I wasn't capitalizing on. So you helped me to really focus in on those things. Like, hey, I have a love of Japanese food. I love
Right.
cooking it. I love preparing it. Why
You love
not do
eating
that?
out, right? And you
Yeah,
love eating it out
exactly.
too.
Right. And it's like, if I already like those things, how about I find ways to get into that eating and make it work within the confines of what works for
Right.
me nutritionally. So I know that, or rather, I knew that starting with you on this more maintenance journey, food preparation was a huge thing for me.
Right.
I love looking at nice looking food. And so
Yes.
instead of getting foods that would take an hour and a half to prepare, I
Right.
would take 10 minutes to prepare it because I
Right.
already like multitasked
Right.
before, like, oh, okay, I'm going to prep this, I'm going to put that
Right.
away. And it wouldn't take as much time. So when I wake up in the
Yeah.
morning and I have my breakfast, it's just like saute some eggs, cut them
Right.
up, boom, boom. Have a little bit of
Right.
some beans that I already have pre-made,
Right.
boom, boom, and then just make it look nice. Oh,
Right. Your
so good.
visual presentation is
Yeah.
phenomenal. One of the best that I see. So,
Thank you.
which makes me want to do better with my design. Sometimes you look at it like,
Oh,
hey, what are you eating there, Brian? But simple is easy, and easy gets done.
mhm.
Now,
Easy gets done.
so we're finding better systems. I like to
Yes.
think of like KPIs and ROIs. So key performance indicators, you need to drink a certain amount, you need to move a certain amount, you need to sleep a certain amount, you need to have some time to yourself. And then you have your performance and business and such. And so you have all these
Mhm.
things that we're working on. What are the systems that work really well for you to just operate? And
Yeah.
so you don't have to get your Rachel Ray on and be in the kitchen prepping and
No.
whisking and blending and kitchen
No.
aid things and such. We found some simple ways to manage the food, manage the activity, so that you can show up. So tell me about we recently had a show where you performed, and what were some of the things that we talked about? I know we talked about the preparation beforehand
Prep.
so that you could show up
Yes.
afterwards. So
Yes.
and if someone's watching this, you don't have to be a Grammy nominated singer to think of this, but shift of like you doing a powerful presentation to someone or a group of people or a business meeting that was really important. This could be a very good analogy of what to start thinking about and how to process so that you can show up the best that you can in your
Yeah.
world for the people that are around you. And so,
Yeah.
so let's talk about
Absolutely.
that one
Well,
instance
I
there.
want to say thank you actually because you helped dismantle the word prep for me.
Yes.
Like prep used to feel like, okay, I'm gonna put all of this rice and all of these
Right.
beans and like, in a big
Right.
old Tupperware. That's not prep anymore.
Right.
Preparation is more looking at what I usually do and what my body usually kind of reacts, which way it reacts, and planning accordingly to that.
Right.
So I had this show and it was a 90-minute performance. First half was 45 minutes, then there was about a 20-minute intermission, and then another 45 minutes. I was singing a lot of classic rock and like psychedelic rock. So it's really vivacious and energized. And I had
Right.
dancers and I had choreography and I was bouncing around and
Yeah,
going
just
into the
check out her
audience.
Instagram or TikTok, or
Yeah, yeah,
YouTube.
me
She's all
too.
over the place.
So because of that, I knew this was going to be a high octane
Right.
experience. I had a lot of prep before the actual concert, where not only getting prepared looks
Right.
wise for the show,
Mentally,
but
physically,
mentally, physically,
emotionally.
exactly.
Right.
I knew I had to like talk with my band. So this was going to be an all day affair.
Right.
And one of the things that we talked about just to make sure that preparation was set was okay, you're going to forget to eat. Today is not the day for you to be cooking. There's no
Right.
time for that.
Right.
So, what are you going to do the day before or the 2 days
Right.
before to make sure that you have your meals already set? And I said, I know that I can't eat something that is too mushy gushy. I'm not going to want to eat it because
Mm.
the visuals are important to me.
Right.
So I ended up having a really awesome breakfast that I prepared the night before. And then I had a sandwich, a huge, huge sandwich that I just cut up into three pieces
Right.
that I
Make it
knew that was
simple.
going to give me a lot of
Uh-huh.
the calories that I needed because I was going to burn a lot. Um,
Yes.
I also had an after show event that I was going to have a lot of people over and lots of food, lots of
Right.
opportunities to
Food.
potentially binge.
Right.
And to prepare for that, I said, okay, let me just have a little bit of food here, a little bit of food there. I'm never going to get to the point that I feel depleted and
Right.
hungry.
Right.
And because of that, it was a super successful day. I ate, I felt great. My performance was stellar,
Mentally clear to just go
so
out
clear,
and just
so
rock it.
clear.
So you're up
And I
there
knew
doing
that,
your Tina Turner impersonation and
yeah, yeah,
just getting
getting
the
my Tina.
crowd
You know,
going.
Tina, she's she's a big old ball of energy. So
She
I had
is.
to be able to like run in heels.
Yes, you're right. You're like out there doing the running man.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. And so now we've gone through that a couple of times, and so each of your performances is a much more of a holistic approach, meaning you're thinking about a lot of different variables than just even just food, and but you can show up for you yourself, most importantly, for your team of people that are there that need the performance to go well too, right? And
Yes.
then you have the fans that are coming and want to be entertained and thrilled and just be super excited about your performance. And then when you get done, you want to have just like this sense of like, oh wow, like I really went out and I don't feel washed up either. And then someone is
Yes.
like crawl into my bed and sleep for 48 hours or something because of this and
I
such.
had a
So
show the next day, so it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
let's
So we have
go.
to like constantly be thinking about what comes next. So
Yeah.
well, you've you've crushed it. I'm so happy we're finding that balance. We're finding that happiness of that look, that feel, that performance level, the energy of who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. And it's phenomenal. I'll definitely put some of your places to find you in the link
Thank
description and
you.
stuff here for sure because I've subscribed to her across all platforms, and when she pops up I always like and I stop and listen because she's her voice is phenomenal. So let's do one more question here and then we'll wrap up. So if someone was in a similar situation that you were back, so just like unclear on food, had old patterns of behavior, could be in not necessarily you weren't, but if you're in poor health and had gone to the doctor and they're not giving you good reports, then what would you tell someone?
Well, there are a few things. Working with you, I realized that having an accountability partner in that journey is integral.
Right.
There are going to be points at which you don't even recognize what's going on. Life is gonna life, is what I usually say.
Right.
It's gonna come. So to have someone like you who helps you help me stay the course. I encourage people to seek out someone like you to get that help and accountability, to get the discipline without the rigid, more do this or you fail
Right.
kind of.
Right.
You don't approach it that way at all.
Right.
Anyone who's wanting to do things a little bit more flexibly or more one-on-one with someone who cares and is actually human and understands that, that's one of the biggest, I guess, if not the biggest reason why working with you was so beneficial. I just feel so like happy to know that you got my back.
I
So
do. I'm
yeah.
the Mickey to your Rocky.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
in the corner. I'm
You do.
ready to lead and guide you on. So,
Exactly. And that doesn't mean that you're gonna just be overly nice. I so appreciate
uh,
that you don't mess like, yeah, you don't
right.
say like, oh, okay, you're
We're
doing
we're
fine.
to the
No,
point. We have a lot of
you
fun,
exactly.
humor, sarcasm, a lot of fun,
Yeah.
but we also need to make sure we're getting things done.
Get the work done.
It's just super
Yes.
important. So,
So good. So good.
well, I so appreciate you for just showing up, being yourself, and allowing me to help guide you and making better decisions for yourself with your health, your nutrition, your fitness, and your career and life. So I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for your time today and your kind words. And I will definitely link everything of who you are. So people, if they want to hear some of Debo, then they can definitely check you out and subscribe because I am a forever subscriber to you as
Thank
well.
you.
So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.